This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Why, yeah, so let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing. As on this episode, we're looking at why wizards are problems in games.
The problem with your wizard.
Except there's copy that you didn't look at.
Whatever.
You're supposed to rant.
I just started with that. I just started ranting.
You just started ranting?
The problem with your wizards. No, wizards annoy the shit out of me.
You got a chip on your shoulder about it?
I do have a chip on my shoulder about it. They just annoy me.
Why do you have a chip on your shoulder about wizards?
Because I hate GMing wizards.
You hate GMing wizards?
I hate GMing high-level wizards. I fucking hate it.
Hate it?
I do. That's why I kill most of my D&D campaigns right at 10th level. Like, oh, wizard, you're coming into your own? Bam. Bye-bye, campaign.
Wow, brutal. Brutal. That's like crimes against wizards.
Yeah, man. They got to come into them.
They got to come into them?
It's their fault.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
it's the designer's fault. It's not the player's fault. I mean, they picked wizard. That's a bad choice. And then from there, it just goes downhill.
If you couldn't tell, we're going to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek tonight about the wizard. My name is Chris.
This week, I'm Phil, who also didn't read the copy.
And I feel so much better about myself right now. I'm Old Man Logan.
So, Old Man Logan, what's going on, man?
Apparently we don't have an episode banner on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, wow, look
We're
at
running
that.
naked.
I'll go do that while you're doing your thing.
But hey, look what's above me. What is this?
The Book of the
Book of the
Tarrasque.
Tarrasque.
Ding.
We're getting very good feedback on this book. Please go buy it. So what's going on? I have been proofreading all the things all the time.
You have been. You actually did a
have been
whole ton of
proofreading
work
a
this
lot.
week.
I proofread the Rakshasa's Roost for you. I proofread some more of the Paranoia book. I proofread the AMP Year 1 Quick Start for Aloy and Third Eye Games.
Man.
My eyes have been over all kinds of things. And today I did another thing for John Arcadian that's going to be doing a thing.
And I think you have a Gnome Stew article for me.
I just did that earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
And
and I have stuff to send to you. When,
and I did the Dungeon World thing.
the
for
legacy
you.
weapon.
The Legacy Weapon, which, by the way, the Legacy Weapon is a really cool thing that's coming out. We'll talk about it a
It
little
is.
bit. Yeah.
So yeah, I have been doing that, and I have been, well, let's see. There was Sunday Swords. Oh wait, Sunday Swords didn't actually happen.
That's my fault.
Oh, who
That's
who
me.
overslept?
It's totally me.
We just had full on geekery
Now,
nerd talk.
to be fair to myself, I did stay up till like 5 a.m. working on a layout for a thing called the Legacy Weapon.
That is absolutely.
Actually, I think you stayed up till 5 a.m. working on a layout for a thing called Dangerous Space.
Oh,
Jam.
that's right. I'm relaying that out too. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So we didn't play Sunday Swords Without Master, but we talked about a whole bunch of other stuff.
It was fun to just.
And we
hang
had a
out,
good
though.
time just hanging
It
out,
was-
chill, you know.
It was some fun. There were some laughs.
Glenn is pretty fun to hang out with. Nikki's also a really good
absolutely.
time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, that's the best part. Like, if we game, awesome, and if
Yeah.
we don't, then
Still
I
hanging out with cool
spend breakfast. I spend breakfast with you guys.
Yeah,
which is
Yep.
it's a win-win.
Cannot argue with that.
Totally a win-win. Yeah.
And then that evening, Sunday evening, action movie world, baby.
Oh,
Freeze frame high five.
those assholes are high-fiving again. I
Oh
know
my
it.
god, that game is so much fun. Good times, good times. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. Hey Chris, how about you?
So I've been relaying out Dangerous Space Jail, that thing that we put out a bunch of years ago, which was my first layout, and it was terrible. So now I'm doing a better job of it. And, just use all the same art assets that we had before and touching up the text and the cover. Like, I got rid of that blocky cover and got a new title for the cover. Like, the cover art is awesome. But now, like, I've done some, like, little enhancements to it and whatnot. And on the inside, too, like the text is just better now.
Well, listen, you didn't have InDesign.
I also didn't have the
You didn't have any actual skill. You did.
I've laid out. At that point, I had laid out 3 things. That was
Right.
the 4th thing I've ever laid out. Now I've
Yeah.
laid out about 40 things.
Right.
So
so arguably better and
Arguably
better
better.
tools.
Practice
Yeah.
makes perfect.
really perfect. I also, it also helps to have Tim and John to ask questions to sometimes.
Yes.
I'm actually looking forward. And so let me just say this. People who have purchased Dangerous Space Jail in the past, when Chris finishes relaying it out, we will update it on drive-through, and you will get for free the notice from drive-through, so you can just download the new version of it, all sexy laid out.
All sexily laid out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been laying out a product called the Rakshas's Roost because Bob finished proofing it, and I did most of that in one night. If I didn't get caught up doing a bunch of stuff for podcasts, then I would be done with it, but I'm doing podcasty type stuff too. Because there's a Patreon launching this week for Hobbs and Friends of the OSR, so that has some different goals in the Misdirected Mark podcast, including a quarterly OSR zine. So that's a thing that'll be happening. Yep. I did Down with D&D. Also, Merwin just came back from Winter Fantasy and Winter Fantasy this past weekend, and he got some interviews with Chris Lindsay, who's the not the brand manager. He's like the guy in charge of product stuff for Dungeons and Dragons. He also is out there doing a lot of promotional type stuff for D&D. And then James Intercasso from the World Builders blog and Don't Split the Podcast Network, and Mike Shea, Sly Flourish, and he has his own podcast on that network called the DM's Deep Dive.
That's the one we're rumbling with?
Are we rumbling with them?
I don't know, but there's a Don't Split the Podcast in the chat room tonight.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
I always say that, and then you're like, we're not rumbling with them.
Hi, Intercasso, if that's you.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out.
We're not rumbling with them.
Yeah.
We love other podcast networks.
We're lovers, not fighters.
Yeah. I've also been working with Garrett on threats from Gallifrey, so there'll be some new and improved stuff coming from that space too. So that's what I've been up to. It's a busy week. What about you, man?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I am gearing up for Dreamation, which is next week. So 9 days away. That's awesome. And so I have a couple things I want to have in place when I get there. The first one of which is I wanted to have character sheets, playbooks laid out for Hydro Hackers. So this past weekend, I sat down and started working on creating the, I guess it's a character sheet, right? It's a playbook. Yeah. I created the sheets. I created a generic one over the weekend, and I've started to flow the text from all the playbooks into the generic one, and is good. I like it a lot. I mean, I like it a lot. You guys have seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty happy with the way it's coming out, and they look like they look like honest to goodness playbooks.
We have a ridiculous amount of layout skill on this team now.
We do. I am not the InDesign guy though. So character sheets are often Illustrator stuff, and I'm good on Illustrator.
We should get together and trade notes sometimes. My Illustrator skills are, I'm still pretty novice with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot with InDesign now.
I figure I could learn InDesign, but I'll be honest, now that you've jumped up in skill level with it, and John is excellent with it, and Tim is amazing, there's not really a huge point for me to actually invest a lot of time when I could be working on something else.
Yeah.
Merwin better not know how to lay out, because if I'm the only one, then I'm going to shoot myself. I need to have somebody on my team.
It's weird. I'm glad, Bob, that you got through all that stuff this week, because I was starting to think, man, we could probably use another editor and another proofreader, because we don't have that skill set secondary. Yeah, we don't have that third person.
We don't have
that
a
can
third
do
one,
it. Yeah,
and it's sure as hell ain't me. So yeah. Anyway, I did the character sheets. I'm really thrilled with them. I did my own first level proofing pass on them, and found a few things on each sheet that I just have to go back and fix. There was just some things I was copying from Google Docs into it, and so not everything italicized, and I just got to pick through and make sure those things. And the other thing I didn't do, which I didn't do in the Google Doc either, which is just a convention, is bolding the move names if you use them in the text.
Yeah, yeah.
I just got to go through and do all those. Anyway, I did all those, and Legacy Weapon is ready, but I need a quick adventure for it. So I think what I'm going to do is put together a quick 5-room dungeon, not with a map or anything, just 5-room dungeon with a bunch of leading questions.
Uh-huh.
But I think the premise is going to be your whole party gets killed, and you run away, and you find the legacy weapon.
That sounds awesome.
And then what do you do from there?
Yeah, and you should totally give that to me, because I'll just put that in the back of the PDF.
After I've written it, I'm going to take it with me, probably just on a piece of paper, and so far tentatively, I don't have a date and time worked out. But Jason Cordova's gonna, he and I are gonna hopefully meet up and play test it one-on-one.
It'll be sweet.
Yeah,
That'd be very cool.
I'm kind of really excited about it, and then we can kind of whisk that thing off to publication.
So Legacy Open intended for single one-on-one dungeon world play.
One-on-one dungeon world play. The weapon kind of helps fill in for, what you're missing from all the other playbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good.
Yeah. I read a shit ton more comic books, but I guess we'll talk about that in the after show.
Yeah, that's later.
Yeah.
So announcements. The Book of the Trask is still out there. And you should also follow Joe the Trask on Twitter if you're not following Joe the Trask.
You must follow Joe the Trask. He's hysterical.
He likes to eat stuff.
Have him take you out to lunch.
Yes, have him take you out to lunch. That is the thing.
Don't have him take you out to lunch.
Also, there's been 2 very nice reviews from Caleb G from the RPG Academy and Knight Errant Jr. on, I forget the name of his blog. I should probably go. I'll have a link in the show notes to his blog, so you'll be able to see that there. Thank you very much for those reviews. They're very kind, and I appreciate the candor. Our February character cache is a pinup male ranger scout type.
Yes.
We're going straight up Harlequin romance novel cover for it.
So first of all, thanks to our patron backers, because we don't pick these out. They come from voting, and people knew it was February, and they decided to have some fun with the tags they put in the in the list. And we are not one to shy away.
Nope.
So yeah, we're going full on Fabio Harlequin romance.
With the shirt unbuttoned, it's going to be
Hair
awesome.
flowing.
Hair flowing.
We saw the initial sketches. Earlier today.
It was better when he put the giant hawk flying down to his hand.
Oh my god, so amazing!
Can't wait.
I now can't wait for the write up.
Yeah, I better not suck.
I almost feel like I'm almost sad that when you get to the fate thing, let me help you with a couple stunts, because we got to do a couple of
absolutely
really crazy romance stunts.
Yeah, I'll be writing that sometime tomorrow or the day after.
By the way, it's Rudy who's in the chat room.
Hey, Rudy Basso, what's going on? By the way, Rudy Basso from Don't Split the Podcast Network. He is the on Game O'Clock, and he is one of the primary editors and put togetherers of the. Oh my God, why do I not? I talk about the show all the time. The audio drama that's the best comedy drama role-playing game podcast. Help me out, Rudy. Just type it.
Oh,
and then I'll say it.
How could you forget?
Oh, sorry. I just slipped my mind. I'm bad. Okay, moving on. World building. We do that at the end of the show in the after show. If you're in the chat room for that, I am going to name the rest of the city-states. So start thinking about that, people. We currently have Katie Olam, Bastit Goons, and Dogan Yuri. We need 3 more. The names use either Mandarin or Turkish language as the base to construct them. We're also going to ask who runs them and what do they want. Also, if you want to get in on that action, go to the G+ community, go to the world building section, and put that stuff in there. I'm looking for all of that information. I will tell you about the cat people, the cat folk later. All right. Last thing. There's a strong push for us to do another bed episode for Valentine's Day. So we're going to do another bed episode for Valentine's Day?
I think we are. I think
we can. We have the capacity to do it.
We do. We have to move we have to move everything.
Yeah, that's not that hard.
Currently in negotiation.
That's easy.
Yeah.
So we might be in a bed next week, everybody, for Valentine's Day, because we're recording on Valentine's Day. So there you go.
We are recording on Valentine's Day.
And
in fact, don't not listen to us live. Just bring your significant other. Chris, I kind of feel like we need to do some sort of topic or something fitting for Valentine's Day.
So do you want to talk about Sunstone?
Oh.
Ooh. Interesting.
We could do a
in-depth on Sunstone and why it's like
Sunstone,
such a great...
Or a salon on Sunstone, because that's what the salon is for.
I'm afraid that we're going to scare people off who haven't read the whole thing yet.
I know, but that's
true. Like, I haven't read it.
All right. I'm not 100% sure yet.
It'll be something romantically laced. Maybe we'll talk about romance in games.
Yes, Pandas did it, but we could do it too.
Yeah, we can do that. We always take a different tact anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so tune in next week live to see me and Phil in bed.
Again. I'm
All
top. Right. I called it. I called top. Yes, it's like shotgun. I called top.
All right, well, let's move on to the...
I'm side chick.
I think... Yes, you are.
Wait a minute.
All right. Before we move on to our feature segment, we have an advertisement for 100 Dungeons Kickstarter. So I talked about this last week. The 100 Dungeons Kickstarter is a Make 100 project to build an old school 100 level mega dungeon. The graphic design around this is excellent. I love these maps already. There are some samples of what each of these spreads, these 2-page spreads, looks like on the Kickstarter page. I will have a link in the show note to check it out. For those who are curious of what the Make 100 idea was, it was a Kickstarter initiative by Kickstarter itself to have projects that had 100 unique 100 backer level unique goal. Like there's only one level that you can get 100 of. In this case, for this Kickstarter, it's called the Dungeon Builder backer level. They are capped at 100, and those backers will have a chance to suggest art, items, layout, and even story scenarios for the dungeons. Plus, they get private and commercial licenses for all of the art and art assets. So if you're a publisher and you want that stuff, you should get in on that. If you just want to use it for your Roll20 games, you should get in on that. It's pretty awesome. We talked last week about how you guys don't actually play Mega Dungeons.
No, we don't.
Now,
Yeah, not so much.
Now, on the other hand, there are 100 levels of this dungeon.
Yeah.
Like, they're just plug and play. So they can actually just be one night of play, too. Just
Well,
pull one out.
well,
And
yeah.
that's a selling point.
Yeah.
Because if you're not into the mega dungeon, you can just pull out the pieces you want.
True
I don't
facts.
think it's a matter of not being into the mega dungeon. I think it's the I've never had a campaign where I've gotten everyone to commit to basically being like, well, we're never leaving the dungeon. I mean, there's ways to do that.
I don't think that's the good way. Like, that's always been my problem with Mega Dungeon, because the Airy Peaks is technically a Mega Dungeon,
Correct.
but it's got a home base that you can go out to and then go back in. from.
Correct. Which is
This is
something
true.
actually I liked about the Airy Peaks quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you were very good about was that as we got deeper into the dungeon, we didn't have to deal with bullshit in the upper levels.
Yeah.
Like we just hand wave those things. Like
Well, it was eventually for the Airy Peaks, there'll be a move where you just travel past that stuff.
Right.
So you just roll the dice, and then maybe something bad happens, like a wandering.
so it'd be like a
monster
perilous
encounter.
journey kind of thing.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
going to be a
I hope so.
modification of perilous journey.
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you love maps and art assets, if you love dungeons, if you want to have all that cool stuff, go check out the Kickstarter. I'll have a link in the show notes.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Just because I'm curious. I'm assuming these are black and white.
Yeah.
Is there a stretch goal option to get them in blue and white? If I am
Oh,
feeling so
man.
old school.
I should really kick that idea to him. I mean, if you know how to use any kind of, it's super simple to change it from black art to blue
Yeah.
line art. So
I'm just saying, one color replacement, and I'm flashing back to childhood Phil, right? Like,
I will kick that to him. I have his email address, so I'll just ask. And if you decide to go and back this Kickstarter, please do me a favor and go into the comments section and let them know that we sent you over that way.
right? But just one thing,
Yeah.
Senda. Back in the day, maps for D&D used to be blue and white, for reasons we don't know, but they were.
All right.
They were called modules. Modules were what adventures were once called.
Yes. All right. Are you ready to get your rant on?
Yeah, you ready to get ranty?
Yeah. Here,
Let's
let me
get
just
ranty.
hit this button. Welcome to the workshop, where we try to build better games. I'm actually in negotiations with a sound engineer to get a new bumper for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Who? What sound engineer?
me.
Oh,
I'm
are you
negotiating.
failing at the negotiations?
I'm negotiating
part?
with myself. Well, I mean, it's the bumper that's been there forever, right? Like I've had that one since the beginning.
I'm pretty sure Mark. Has commented on that
yeah,
bumper.
people have commented on that bumper saying it's too loud and it's too annoying at times. But I mean, it's been there for so long; it's just hard to get rid of. I mean, I've gotten rid of Vera, I've gotten rid of the fiction, I've gotten rid of so much stuff, but I've never gotten rid of that.
You even got rid of Mark.
He chose to leave.
I half chose and half I think. Remember, didn't he actually try to record an episode with May or something?
That happened.
Yeah,
That was kind of a catastrophe.
yeah, kind of remember that didn't go as well as
No,
as
it
well
didn't.
as everyone.
May is Mark's child, who is now much older. Not much older, but she is significantly older
yeah,
than she was
yeah.
then.
Well, that was back when Mark had May, and he was like,
Gaming.
"Nothing's gonna change."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm taking May with me to the gaming store."
And
Now,
he did sometimes.
which is fine when the child is a baby and fits in the bucket,
Yeah, that's
right?
sorry.
No, that's what we called it, the carrier, the bucket, right?
Yeah.
It's fine when they fit in the bucket. When they can walk, all hell breaks loose.
That's true.
By the way, one more aside before we rant about wizards.
Sure.
The other day I saw pictures of, and I won't name her because I don't know if Drew puts her name out there, but Drew, there's some pictures of Drew and his daughter together on Facebook. That girl is adorable.
She is very adorable.
She is adorable.
I'm
Anyway,
pretty sure I've said her name on this podcast before.
I know. I wasn't 100% sure. So
We'll just leave it.
Yeah.
Drew, if it's
Anyway.
okay to mention your daughter's name, just let me know, because she is adorable and
yeah,
she should.
I know Drew's listening, and I saw the pictures go by on Facebook, and I'm like, oh my God, she is adorable. Okay. Anyway.
So we talked about wizards a few episodes ago,
Yeah,
and
we
the
were just
idea
kind of
that
like,
wizards are kind of a pain when it comes to RPGs.
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Look, what I said at the front of the show in tongue in cheek is not false. Like, I hate GMing wizards. And let me be more specific. I hate DMing wizards, and I have on more than one occasion put a bullet in high level D&D campaigns because I'm just like, fuck it, I can't handle this wizard.
Now, I actually disagree with you on all of this stuff, but tonight, just tonight, we're going to go a little tongue in cheek.
Well, first of all, let's be honest. There's nothing. Our normal scholarly, researched, careful, thought about tones have kind of gone out the window, right?
I've gone way to the right here to argue to talk about how terrible the wizard is.
Yeah, we're gonna just kind of run off and just kind of be funny and complain about.
And
this.
now I'm going to tell you in a future episode, not next week, and maybe not, and probably not the week after that, but a few weeks from then, we're going to talk about why the wizard is awesome.
You don't want to play the crickets thing?
No. Because me and Bob will do a fine job.
We'll talk about how awesome the wizard is.
Yeah, because Harry Dresden in the Dresden Files role-playing game makes the wizard awesome. And also, the 5th edition version of the game is a much better wizard.
Well, we could talk about that, because that's actually...
And also how Savage Worlds handles it, because it's not that bad.
Oh, we could have a whole talk about the Savage Worlds wizard.
I mean, we could talk about the 4th edition wizard, too, which is exactly the same.
The 4th edition wizard is the reaction to the 3rd edition wizard, and it's the pendulum swung completely in the wrong direction.
It's true.
Right? Like, everything that you hate about the 3rd edition wizard, they tamped out in 4th, and then it stopped feeling like a wizard.
Not really.
It did, kind of.
Not to me.
Whatever.
How about we turn this thing back into the topic?
Well, we are talking about the wizard.
Bob just did that thing we actually pay him to do.
Yeah. Why don't you tell me why
wizards suck?
Yeah, why wizards suck. I'm gonna sit here and listen.
Well, all right. So, I mean, I honestly think this just goes all the way back to Gandalf, right?
Okay.
Like, I think this is Gandalf's fault. And I say that because, we go all the way back to Gandalf, and here's the problem, right? We have, we have a problem. He's making a mess of things all through the book, but it's all like tricksterous bullshit, right? Like, little fireworks thing here and there, whatever, right? And you're like, what the hell is Gandalf actually doing? Until the fucking Balrog shows up, right? Like, and then all of a sudden Gandalf's like, wait, I got this. Like, hold my staff, right? Like, it just like puts a stop to the Balrog by himself. And at that moment, like, every like little kid playing a wizard's like, I want to be like Gandalf. Like, and designers, those people become future designers, right? Like, they like see this bullshit and decide to emulate it. And it's fine in a book where you control that narrative, but it's harder to do when you make it into a game.
Okay.
That's part of it.
It's totally terrible. Gandalf is the bane of all wizards.
Well, he's annoying as hell, right? Like, I mean, there's a whole bunch more stuff we could go into that, but that's not why we're here.
I liked watching the fight between Saruman and Saruman and Gandalf. It was fun. The telekinesis staff fight.
The just spinning dudes fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No meteor swarm in that fight. Just throwing some telekinesis around.
Yeah. Also summoning birds to you.
It would have been helpful when they had that freaking army in front of them if you could have dropped a couple fireballs.
Yeah, it would have been useful.
Yeah, I mean, this is that Gandalf thing, right? Like, there's this thing where you're like, why has Gandalf got a sword, right? And then the Balrog shows up. He's like, wait, you will not pass. And then like, that's it. Anyway, it gets worse.
Sure.
Right?
Hit me.
Gandalf is like the tip of the iceberg, but the real perpetrator here is Elminster. Elminster is the real perpetrator because Elminster is baked into the game. Where before I was going to say, and you corrected me off mics, that Gandalf is a Appendix N, an Appendix N character, right? Like it's referenced. Elminster is a product of the game.
It's true.
And Elminster is just the worst.
He also has a series of novels that depict how he came into his power.
Whatever.
Which also make him pretty terrible. There's one part in one of the books where he is he's been gender bended into a woman at this point.
Okay.
Which is fine. Like I have no problem with that. It's actually one of my favorite parts of that story. So he's like a cleric of Mystra at that point in time. And he by himself pretty much takes out a dragon, a beholder, a crawling hand, and some other creature because I mean they were in stasis, so he had time to set up for it.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Why would he be able to do that?
Right.
Like, I mean, and that's something that could have probably happened in a game, right? Like, if you have enough setup time as a wizard, you can do that kind of stuff.
GMPC.
Right. Well,
I think he is a GMPC,
I
like
think
the
so.
GMPC. Hey, you want to see what's bad about a GMPC? Look at Elminster.
Elminster, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Angela asks correctly. So Elminster's name is actually Mary Sue. That is actually correct.
Correct. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that is.
All right. The problem is that, and this all works if you're writing novels, right? So if you're Ed Greenwood and you're dropping novels here about Elminster, doing this shit, that is fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yes, Ed Greenwood, right to your heart's content.
Yeah, by all means. But please, it's fine. When you do it in a novel, it's fine. It's when people expect this shit to translate to game that it gets to become a problem. And so Wizards just, I think in general, I dislike the general theme of this class in the past. Now, I have not played enough 5th edition. And as you said, you're going to talk about this more in a future segment. So I'm going to just go with shit I didn't like since 1st edition.
Sure, do it.
Okay. So do you want to just talk about some of the problems?
Yeah, hit me.
All right,
Come on, man.
Let's just talk about the first one. The first one is the advancement curve for Wizards just sucks.
Sure does, man. That what is it? What do they call it? The linear fighter and the quadratic wizard.
The quadratic wizard sucks.
Hard.
It is. If you are playing a wizard, you are making a long-term investment in the game. And that investment is, hey, someday later, you'll get to do some cool shit. But in the meantime, here's your bag of fucking sand for your 1 sleep spell. Here's your fucking 4 hit points. Don't get yourself killed. Good
Or
luck.
if you're lucky.
I'm playing.
A 1 in 4 chance that you got 4 hit points.
So let me just say, I'm actually playing Basic Expert Edition D&D right now.
How's it going?
I'm playing Wizard.
Yeah.
I've played 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I haven't died yet.
Have you done much?
I hold the torch. It matters.
Let me ask you a question. Did you consider just playing Elf if you're playing Basic? Because Elf is better.
Yeah, I could have played Elf, but I really wanted the whole magic user
Because
thing.
Elf, you could have had hit points and fucking armor and a sword and spells.
Hey, Wizard,
but you
do
picked-
something.
You
Hang on.
picked Wizard.
Actually, I don't think I
Magic
rolled, I
missile.
don't think I actually
Pew.
rolled high enough to play an Elf.
Oh, you didn't have. Oh, yeah.
Because I rolled straight down the line.
I was going to say, welcome to Basic Edition. You don't have stats for that.
On the bright side, my constitution was high enough to get a hit point bonus, so I actually have 5 hit points.
Yeah. Okay. So
In 3 sessions, and granted they're all like 2 to 2.5 hour sessions.
Sure, whatever.
Still first level.
it's still got your fucking torch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I thought you had light.
I do have light.
Oh, but you only have 1.
But you can blind somebody with it.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't use it to light shit up. You need it for a weapon.
Yeah, because I have a torch to light shit up.
Yes. Okay, so here's the problem, right? The problem is the premise of the wizard up to at least 3rd edition Pathfinder. The premise of the wizard is that you need to suck early so that you'll be so awesome later. Now, here's a couple problems.
Because the game balance is built that way, which
Right.
might be problematic for modern game design.
Well, this is right. This
It
is this was a
problematic
game
for modern
design.
game design.
Yeah. Here's the problems. 1, it assumes you will play long enough to actually get there. Because if you don't, then playing the wizard was a bad choice. Because everybody else went and had fun and killed monsters while you held the torch, and there's no payoff. Right? Like, you don't get the payoff of being awesome.
To be fair, I'm having fun holding the torch.
No, you are an excellent player and can make a fun time out of literally holding the fucking
Yeah,
torch.
but you don't get it because we're playing on roll 20, so it's
Yeah.
got dynamic lighting. So where I stand matters.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Hobbs is then actually making sure that there's something for you to do that's exciting.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
No, it's good. But so it's a long-term investment that and you're right, in terms of modern gaming, may not come to fruition.
Correct.
So you have wasted playtime.
Now, I will say, I mean, we're going to rant all about the wizard, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you are okay with playing that style of game, then that's fine.
Right, but here's the thing. The linear fighter, okay? The linear fighter has fun until the wizard comes into his power. Because what happens is that moment where the wizard stops sucking, and we'll get to this in a second, everybody else in the party is less important.
It's true.
And that's another problem. is that where all the other characters progress in that linear fashion, rogue, fighter, etc., they all have about the same experience level to level. But looming over them the whole fucking time is the wizard. He's weak, he's weak, he's weak. Now he ain't so weak. Now you're all stand behind the wizard.
Well, what's up?
And don't forget, while he's weak, you have to keep his ass alive.
Right. I mean, how many people,
Yeah.
how many hit points have been lost
Yeah.
in trying to keep the fucking wizard alive? Right? People, I mean, seriously, like, that's a thing.
Yep.
I mean, it's bad enough you have to keep the cleric alive, but at least that guy's got armor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's running around with a mace and some armor, and it's fine. But the wizard's got robes and some darts. Right?
Yeah, totally. I'm throwing daggers. And it was funny because I was throwing daggers and I
Right.
went to go pick up my daggers and I'm like, no, man, half of those break or you can't get them back. I'm like, what? Why not? Because any missile weapon that you throw, half of them are gone.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's a really weird rule.
Yeah.
Especially when I have to like buy daggers. Luckily, I found most of those.
I was gonna say, luckily, daggers are like 2 silver pieces. So
Yeah, you
but
that's actually a lot of money.
you don't have a lot of money. All right. So our first problem is rooted in the advancement curve. I mean, they get the shittiest hit points, the worst to hit bonus. Physically, their saving throws blow. They get the
Depends on the game because your death save is pretty great when you're at lower levels in certain editions of the game.
right, and your will save is higher.
Yeah,
In
depending on the game, really, man.
but physically, you are a liability to your party.
Sure are.
You have no armor. You have the shittiest choice of weapons.
You really can't do much.
Right. Right. And you really can't do much. And you get magic, but you get one spell and some cantrips.
Yeah, it's true.
And the cantrips are amusing.
What are you talking about, man? Depending on the edition, you don't get cantrips.
Right. Well, cantrips were a later invention.
Yeah.
Right. Cantrips were invented so that you could fool people into playing first level wizards and not have them bitch and moan the entire time.
Well, I mean, cantrips can be actually pretty cool.
Well, you have to. I mean, listen, a good player can make a lot out of cantrips. I mean, you just got to be smart about it, but you can do a lot of shit if you think carefully about cantrips.
Well, that's part of being a wizard too, is being thinky.
Right. But now, and here's even the crueler part. In the early editions of D&D, there aren't even skills. So the wizard doesn't actually know shit either. Like, you can say he knows shit, but there's no skill roll for like knowledge arcana or, whatever.
Well, that's not actually. I mean,
you can make some int checks.
correct, and that's how you would know that stuff.
Yeah, you make some int checks.
Roll under your intelligence.
Right. But I mean, you don't have any defined skills. Like, you can't actually put skill points in and be like, I am going to be masterful about planar knowledge.
To me, actually, the fact that you don't have to put skill points into it
Makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
It does make it. It's like discern realities, right?
correct.
Now, everything.
Where do you think discern realities came from?
Everything that I hate about the D&D wizard, the D20 wizard, most of it is kind of fixed in Dungeon World.
And for me, a lot of it's fixed in things like fate.
Well, that's fine. Fate, because yes, and I won't argue any part of
Fate
that.
has
part.
legit magic systems these days.
Yeah, Fate does a nicer job with magic. Hell, we made a pretty nice magic system.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay, so advancement curve sucks. And I will say this, that future games should lay off this bullshit advancement system for wizards, because the premise is that you're playing this game forever and you're making a long-term investment. And I don't think that's actually a fair assumption. I think that it should be recalibrated so that you fit what the average length of a campaign is going
Let's
to be.
move on to the next thing.
Let's go.
Let's complain about some more stuff. Spells encroaching on every niche of the game.
Oh, if there isn't a thing I hate more about wizards, it's this thing right here. So again, wizards start off with a pretty paltry amount of spells. Now, some first level spells are actually kind of cool. Magic missile is cool. I shoot magic at you. Pichoo, pichoo.
And it automatically hits.
It automatically hits. It does a little bit of damage, but as you get more powerful, you shoot more of them.
That's true.
Pichoo, pichoo, pichoo. Right. That's good. Sleep.
Is that not infringing on the archers?
No, because everybody can throw shit. I mean, a rogue can throw a dagger. A ranger can shoot a bow. Missile weapon is not a niche.
Okay.
No, that's fine. And then eventually the wizard actually gets some other cool shit, like Fireball.
Uh-huh.
That's an area weapon. There aren't a lot of area weapons for other classes. It's kind of unique. And then when that moment hits, everybody's like, "Oh, wizard! Like, good job, wizard! Like, you just roasted 10 orcs."
Just happened in my my Moonshae Isles playtest game. Somebody dropped a fireball on these giant. Somebody dropped a fireball on mini purple worms, which are gigantic.
Yeah,
So.
but even if you don't kill them all, you softened them all up for the fighters to go in and wade through them. Like, good job.
Yep.
Then the wizard looks one day, and the thief fails a roll to pick a lock, and the wizard's like, "Oh, hang on a second, knock." What the fuck is what is the rogue now there for?
You want to hit invisibility to go along with that?
Right, right. Oh, you know what? You're going to screw up your roll to hide in shadows. Hang on a second. Boink. There. Now you're invisible. Oh, I'm invisible too. Look, I'm doing your shit. No, I mean, becomes the problem is that there are so many spells that spells start to encroach on other character classes.
Well, let's kick it up another notch. I mean, there's scry, there's teleport, there's dimension door.
Well, I mean, we're gonna get to some reasons why I don't like those in a second.
Yeah, sure.
But let's talk about what is it, like talk to woodland creatures, like charm animal, like, well, we don't need you, druid and ranger, like, out of the way. Like, wizard's got this covered.
Big B's hand to be a tank for you. The Mordenkainen's magical weapon or whatever the dancing weapon spell is.
Right.
Now I don't need a fighter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we get into this thing where, I mean, hell, Unseen Servant is I like Unseen Servant, actually.
I like Unseen Servant too. Then I don't need to bring a henchman. I got my own henchman. A henchman and a spell.
You'd think the Henchman Guild would be pretty pissed off at the invention of that spell.
Probably.
They'd lobby against it.
There's a story.
Anyway, point being is that there doesn't need to be a knock spell.
I mean...
There doesn't need to be a knock spell.
Why?
Well, because you have a party member that already does it. And if we're going by designer, the designers of the game have acknowledged in the past that you should have a rogue in your group. That it should be fighter, wizard, rogue, cleric. So you don't need knock. You have somebody who does knock.
What about magical locks?
Well, why can't the rogue pick magical locks? Why is it? All right, that's actually on the bottom of my list, where high level magic, where all problems have to be solved with magic at the end. That's the bullshit thing. Like, oh, we got a rogue. Rogues can pick locks. Oh, you know what? They get to plus 15. Nope, magical locks. You can't pick this shit. Haha. What does that say to the rogue? Like, two middle fingers. Like,
yeah.
Good for you to level up and get that plus 15 in that skill, but sorry, these locks, you can't fucking use them.
That's why they give them use magic device.
Right. It's bullshit.
It's a little bit.
It's bullshit. Knock is a bullshit spell. I feel like Tony tonight. I'm channeling Tony.
You're channeling Tony.
I'm channeling Tony.
But
knock,
here, let me get into my yes man mode. Yeah, man, knock sucks.
Right.
What's wrong with knock?
Knock is a bullshit
knock is
spell.
terrible.
I mean, there are a lot of other spells I'm okay with.
You can't see me if you're listening to this on the podcast, so I'm shaking my head like this is ridiculous.
Knock is the epitome of what is wrong with spell lists.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
You got anything else? Wait a minute, hold on.
No, I do.
Okay.
There's actually only one thing that somehow the designers have managed not to muck up.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're going to talk about healing, right?
Yeah, can wizards heal?
Vampiric touch.
God, but can they heal other people? They can heal themselves.
Yeah.
Well, they have to because they have shitty hit points. They have to have something that gets them back hit points. They can't lay on hands and heal anyone, right?
No, not as far as I know.
Thank God. Like they've managed to not screw that up.
Thankfully, they've thrown him a bone.
Can I tell you what would happen if Cure Light Wounds was in a wizard spell list? Or any of the cure spells?
Nobody would ever play a cleric.
Clerics would be a dead class.
Well, no, because clerics, they can cast a bunch of spells too, and they can wear armor, and they can use weapons.
I hear you, but how many people do you know that are like, fuck yeah, cleric time? No, most times it's like, we need a cleric for the group. Bob.
Why do I always have to be the freaking cleric?
The most played class in 5th edition D&D is the cleric.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Then they must have fixed something.
No, the cleric is just, way better
because
than
you'll die without it.
No, because you can do everything. You want to talk about niche encroachment? We can get into that later, but
Can we later talk about that?
Yeah, I mean the cleric they can do the fighter thing where they can tank, they can do the spell casting thing where they can like cast flame strike and stuff. They can do the thing where they can heal everybody and
so they just broke that class is what you're telling me.
I mean not really, but
kind of.
I don't think it's broken at all.
But you don't need the rest of the party at a high enough level.
I mean, it's
kind of broken.
They don't have thief skills unless you're a cleric of a thief god.
Do they get knock?
Well, if you're
then they're safe.
If your god is a thief god, then yeah, you get knock.
Oh,
it's in the spell list usually.
Oh God.
Look at Phil shaking his head.
Son of
I mean, technically, clerics are in that spell casting category too. So if this is the problem with spellcasters,
well, yeah, sure.
Are you good? Can I move on to a few things from the community?
Why don't you talk about a few things from the community?
All right, here's the thing. Jared Rasher, he said the wizard is effective at not only are they effective in invading other people's niches, but often when they use their magic, it's auto success.
So wait, it's not only, hey, let me use knock to open this door. I also don't have to roll.
Correct. You have to burn a spell slot, so you have to use one of your resources.
Sure.
But there's no chance for failure.
Sure, that's awesome for that rogue who's been making those rolls their entire career.
Yeah, like if you're playing with invisibility, where you actually don't make any noise or leave any like trace behind you, if that is the rule
in the previous broken.
Yeah,
much like Charm Person we talked about last time. Iterations of Charm Person has been massively broken over the years. Yeah. Invisibility.
Illusionists are really good at tricking people. Like Charm Person means you don't have to use diplomacy anymore, depending on your version of Charm Person.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean stuff like that. Eric Simon, he said spell slots, besides being a resource management problem, they also provide a pacing problem and a story beat problem because if you're as a wizard, you're either using that spell in the right moment, or you have a spell that's just completely useless.
Or what are you doing when you've used up your spells?
That too. You're just standing in the back then.
Well, or you're forcing people to rest.
That too.
Because at low level...
5-minute workday, man.
Right. At low level, who makes the party rest?
The wizard.
The wizard.
Well, also when you're dead.
Well, yes. Yes, when you're dead as well.
So multiple people said this. They were talking about spell components. So spell components in theory are a neat idea, right? But often they get hand waved unless they are providing some sort of cost.
They do, and that's its own thing, right? There's a reason why that kind of sucks.
It does because man, it's fun to pull out bat guano to throw a fireball.
Right, but it's not cool to have to pull out a 5,000 gold piece flawless ruby to cast some like spell rack.
Yeah, but that is the mechanic that helps balance that thing.
When it's enforced.
Yes.
Because
a lot of these 9th level spells I'm going to talk about later, I actually don't think they're very bad. I think they're actually really well designed for 5th edition, but they have a lot of component costs like that.
Well, when you go back and look at 1st edition, even though those spells were wildly crazy at times, the material component costs were pretty hefty.
Yeah, man. And it's not just like gold either. You have to go buy the thing.
Hey, permanency, AD&D permanency, point of constitution.
Yeah.
Not negotiable.
Just negotiable.
You put something and put permanency on it, point of constitution. Done.
I mean, just for identify, man, right? Like you couldn't figure out what magic items did unless you tested them, played around with them, or you got a pearl worth 100 gold pieces, and it was specifically a pearl.
Right, which means that if you just come out of the dungeon and you're like in Podunk Town,
who's got a pearl?
Who's got a fucking pearl?
I mean,
right?
Do we have to go to the city now? Like, how long is it going to take us to get there? How many hexes do we got to travel to get to that?
Right, and what shit's going to go down between here and there?
Yeah, now, to me, that's fine, and that's actually really cool if you're playing a game that is about, like, exploration and traveling around and whatnot, and you're not playing a story-based game, like a game that actually has, like, a plot that you're trying to bring to the table.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're going to need to start providing all that stuff so they can actually use the stuff that they have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there was once a Dragon Magazine adventure that took place in a fallen wizard school. Like you spelunk down into this thing.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest rooms was full of spell components. There were no spells, but it was like jars of components.
That's pretty awesome.
And the wizards were just like, holy shit, like scooping them up. Like they didn't even have the spells, but like they knew like
that one's for this, and that one's for this.
Exactly.
Last thing that I caught from the community is some folks were talking about magic items and how for every other class they make them better at what they do, but for a wizard it just broadens their array of powers. It allows them to encroach on niches even more, encroach on spotlight time even more.
Yeah.
I mean, now if you care about that sort of thing, it's a problem. Now Phil will be ranting over there since we're doing this, and I'll do it with him like, that's so stupid. Why is that like that? Why don't they just make them better at casting spells?
Well, I mean, it depends on the magic items. I mean, like a ring of wizardry is like a real pain in the ass because it starts to short circuit the resource mechanic.
Sure does.
Staff of Power.
Yep, gives you more spells to cast, man.
Right, and not shitty ones either.
Casting all day.
Right.
All right, so that's what's from the community. Let's talk about how magic eventually breaks everything.
There it is. Magic. This is why at some point in all my higher level D&D games, I'm sitting on the other side of the screen and the wizard player does something, and then I'm like, fuck this, I'm not running this campaign anymore. Like, this is bullshit.
You know what happens when that happens to me? Like, I know that it's frustrating to you.
Right.
When it happens to me, I'm like, oh, the game changed.
Right. Right. Well, that's exactly, like, we've signaled for you, the game has changed into something else. For me, literally, the game is about to change into another game. Like, we're gonna play something without fucking wizards. There's a lot of explicit in this one.
There's a lot of
make sure you
have
tagged it.
F-bombed this one so hard.
I did. You know what happened? You let me rant.
Yeah,
and
I know.
I swear a lot when I rant.
Yeah, I heard.
Okay.
I heard it.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just hearing it myself now.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Magic eventually just breaks everything in the fucking game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's another one from the community, real quick.
Yeah.
Wizard familiars.
Yes.
Oh my god. One, at least in older editions, they were annoying. Well, in older editions, they had a cost to them if they died.
Uh-huh.
But in newer editions, they don't matter. Like, if you just summon another one, pay your 100 gold piece, is fine.
I don't know if you remember this, but in the original DMG, all right, the 1978 or whatever DMG.
The one that Gygax wrote?
Yeah. There is a cartoon, and it's this monster, and it's got a knife to this cat's head.
Uh-huh.
And it's like one more step wizard, and the familiar gets it. Because if I remember correctly, you lost half your hit points.
Something terrible.
Half of your
what it
max
is.
hit points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob, can you quick check and see what
Somebody in the chat room help us out?
AD&D Find Familiar.
So-
but yeah, Find Familiar was terrifying because if you got a cool familiar like Pseudo Dragon, it was totally worth it. But if you got like Frog, like Frog, I mean, you got
Frog.
Well, you got some bonuses for Frog, but Frog gonna die.
Especially more hit points.
Right, Frog's gonna die.
Frog hung out in your pocket.
Exactly.
And you forgot Frog was there.
Yeah, squish, and then like you keel over and die.
Oh, man.
That shit happened, man.
So next thing that you have on
Oh,
your
all
rant
right. Let's
list.
get back to magic breaking everything.
Well, that was familiars break things, so they scout, right?
Yeah.
They're super good scouts.
Well, that's
And they're-
niche encroachment,
Yep.
right? Okay, so once you get access to higher level magic, so 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th magic, all the normal problems that occur for parties are no longer problems. Like, there's a giant chasm, and there's no way to get across it. Teleport,
Fly. Dimension door.
right? We don't know what's going on in Baron von Badass's chambers.
That's Scry.
Scry.
Yep.
In fact, 3rd edition invented. I don't know if 3rd edition invented it. It was common in third edition. Scry and Fry.
Scry it and then just drop a bomb on it from far away.
Scry and Fry.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I mean, it was the drone attack of. It was the
Scry delayed blast fireball, so you can drop it in there because
Right.
it's a gem.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I had two. In AD&D, we had 2 high-level wizards, and we once killed like a cave full of drow with a delayed blast fireball and a wall of force. Like we threw one wizard through the delayed blast fireball, the other one put up a wall of force between us and them, and then we just like watched.
Stood there and, hi.
Like we just watched Armageddon on the other side of the wall.
I would have had those drive dispel your wall of force. And then it would have been hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we did not. I'm pretty sure the reason we had to put the wall of force up was we were in the blast radius when we threw
Oh
it.
man, it would have been so
Might be
good.
some splash
So if
Yeah.
I was the game master of that game, and I would have been like, oh look, there's a drow wizard. They cast dimension door on your side and throw the gem through.
Right. Now, let me confess something. about this section where I'm about to rant.
Uh-huh.
I am not the best DM when it comes to managing spells, which is why I don't like high-level wizards, because once my NPC has to have like 15 spells in a spell list, I don't know what they do. And I'm too lazy to actually keep up with it, to figure them all out.
There's actually not some easy ways to fix that, but we're not going to talk about that tonight.
No, I'm just saying, in like third edition, like when I got to like prepping like 12th level wizards and stuff as opponents, I'd like look at the spell list and I'd be like, oh fuck, like I don't know, Enervate, Fireball, like, you know, just a couple, like I sucked at it. Like people who have good system mastery and know what all those spells do off the top of their head tend to do better at this than I do. I just kill campaigns.
That's a rinse and repeat thing. Like,
yeah,
once you've done it 3 or 4 times, then it starts getting easier.
Yeah.
Like now that I've written a bunch of now higher level wizard casters for D&D,
right,
like I know how to put them together faster.
Yeah. So I will just say that most of my ranting about this comes from my own flaw. Okay. Because somebody at some point is going to be like, well, you can just GM around that. You absolutely can.
You can also, there are shortcuts around to help you with those things too.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Magic sucks in that as a GM, it's now an arms race. Like before, Baron Von Badass was in a fortress up on the hill. You gotta march through the fortress, and the last scene is get to Baron Von Badass's chambers and kill his ass. But once you're like a 12th level wizard, that's not a problem. We can skip all of Baron Von Badass's stuff and go in through the window. Unless, and here comes the magical arms race, unless, and now it's going to sound like the Princess Bride, unless Baron Von Badass assumes that 12th level wizards will come after him and prepares all the necessary scrying and, you know, traps against flying and all this other stuff. And then we get into this kind of like ridiculous arms race.
It can happen.
Right? Like, well, tell me right now, there was a D&D adventure that there was like 2 pages.
It's called The Heart of Nightfang Spire.
Yes,
it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Tell me a little bit about Heart of Nightfang Spire.
The whole point is you have to get inside of this tower, right? Like,
right. Now, is this a high level adventure?
It's like a 12th to 14th level adventure, I believe.
So getting into a tower when you are like a 12th to 14th level party is trivial.
It's trivial. So, except when you have a page of these are the spells that are cast upon it, which denies you these things. So you actually have to go into the thing. So like there are so many things that just don't let you get in there or cast teleports or pass wall or any of that stuff. It's a page worth of it. That's when I was like, this game is stupid.
Right. Now, the other example of that for old schoolers is in Q1, Queen of the Demon Web Pits. In order to get to
the Demon Web Pits,
to traverse through those, there's like 5 pages of how magic doesn't work right. And
that was a common thing though for alternate dimensions of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's a super hard module because every gateway is like a shit ton of type 5 demons, and your wizard can barely cast.
Yep.
Like it's a tough module. But yeah, that thing that you were just talking about, that's the problem.
That's the huge problem.
It's a huge problem because magic breaks things that were originally tropes of the game.
Uh-huh.
They were established tropes that no longer work because magic short circuits those tropes.
It's very true.
And what I don't always think is done well is that there isn't a new set of tropes that are slid in at that turning point. Like, hey, you know what? You're now 12th level. You don't cross dungeons to fight problems. Like, you don't have to whatever. Like, there needs to be like a shift in tropes. Like, you're not real, like, you can just go into bigger dungeons, but then bullshit like that happens where it's like, well, I don't want them going through too fast, so magical enchantments have been put up so pass wall doesn't work. Like, well, and if you're the wizard, it's like, well, I got pass wall, man. Like, I had 4 hit points a year ago. Now I got pass wall and I can't use it. So you've basically just nerfed the wizard.
A little bit, yeah.
Which is bullshit because if you spent all that time investing in the wizard to be nerfed at the end, it's kind of a dick move. Okay. Personally, I think all wizards should just slay their parties and then just suck up their power and just go on and play by themselves. No, I'm just being ridiculous.
You are being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like
Okay.
there were a lot of problems, man.
Right. So, I mean, here's the thing. So, everything that used to be a challenge for low level players is no longer a problem if you have a high level wizard. So, we talked about no intel scry. We talked about physical obstacles, right? Fly, teleport. What if something's missing? We need to find a thing.
Yeah, find the path, find the object. There's spells that do that.
Right. Discern location.
Yep.
What if we're outnumbered?
You summon some creatures, man.
Right. You just keep summoning creatures.
Here's my. So
We're short on time. Time is running out.
I mean, time stop.
Right. So everything that used to be a challenge to the players is potentially now not a challenge.
There's a lot of fixes for these days, but we're talking about stuff that is not 5th edition.
Correct. Well, this is where I'm excited because if 5th edition solved a lot of these things, then it's done a really good job.
So every summon spell is
Yeah.
pretty much a concentration spell.
So you can just do that.
You can only have one summon thing. And now there is a huge problem where, like, if you're high enough level, you can summon like 12 things. And then you have an army.
Right.
And you have to play the army.
Uh-huh.
And that's a huge problem.
Uh-huh.
Like, that is one of the bigger problems.
Yes.
There was another really cheesy thing that somebody found in the game because you can summon pixies. And every pixie has sleep or charm person or dominate person. One of those
good
spells.
Lord.
So you can summon like 7 pixies and they can every single one of them can cast that spell. Assuming you're playing it that way, like, right? Like,
Well, I mean,
you could summon the pixies and you could be a jerk game master and be like, well, 3 of them cast their sleep spell already today, so they only have like 2 of them that you can cast.
see, now that is kind of a dick move. Like I would be pissed if my GM did that to me. I mean, there's nowhere if it's said in the rules,
You know
like,
what? If you want to cheese it up, I'll just cheese it up back.
that's the problem because you feel like you have to because you need some sort of edge because you suck everywhere else.
I mean, it's sort of an edge, but it's also your prerogative because they're not like they're minions. They're summoned creatures.
Yeah. No, I know. Okay. All right. So we talked about defenses, right? Do you want to pause for a second and talk to the chat room because they seem chatty?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if they want to talk to us, well, we're being ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fine.
What do they want to say?
There's a bunch of stuff going on. Excuse me. To cover this real quick, the maps were blue because back then photocopiers couldn't pick up the blue color and you couldn't photocopy the maps.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh,
Because they
interesting.
felt the map was the most important piece of the thing, probably.
Who was that? That was the
That was, I think it was Doc. Doc Palindrome said
Doc
that, I think.
Palindrome. What else?
Eileen said for first edition, if the familiar died, you lost double the familiar's hit points permanently. Permanently.
Holy-
That's brutal.
And a new one, Blakery and Batman?
Oh,
It's
Blake
Blake. That's
Ryan.
Blake Bryan Batman.
Blake Ryan Batman.
Oh, hey man,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
What's going on?
Oh, Blake Ryan.
Blake
it's okay.
Ryan
Now
Batman.
I finally got it. Yeah.
We got
I've
you.
seen him on Twitter.
He's been playing Dungeon
He
World.
also sends us a large number of topics for Pandas Talking.
He
Games.
sends us emails too.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
Mo that pointed
Oh, it was
that
Mo.
out.
Thank you,
The
Mo.
blue maps. So Blake Ryan said, second edition, if the familiar died, the caster had to do a system shock check or dies too.
That's right. That's right. I
So
remember
yeah,
that.
you did not want your familiar dying.
And you're
That's
familiar so there's a table. And so if you're lucky, it's something like pseudo dragon, but in more likelihood it's cat.
bad. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you're
man.
running around with like a fucking tabby,
Yeah.
like through like a pile of
What are you
orcs.
talking about? That cat could kill you. Could kill
Yeah.
you
Well,
at first level.
Meanwhile, you're using your mage armor on the cat because you don't want it to die.
Well, let me tell you that in first and second edition, when you went up against high level wizards, the first thing you did was check to see if they had a familiar.
To murder
Yeah.
the familiar.
Right, because then you sent the fighter to go kill the familiar, like at all costs.
Yeah.
And
Dude, find the cat.
and if that didn't work, like as in if the mage was hiding the familiar or whatever, at least the mage would blow all of his good spells trying to kill the fighter.
Well, you know what I would do? I would keep the fighter busy and out of the fight because I'd have a room full of fucking cats.
Yeah.
All right, fighter, figure out which one is the familiar. Oh, it's in a different room. Oh!
I don't know why in my entire career in D&D I never thought to make the crazy cat man
Yep.
and just hide my familiar in with like 20 cats I was traveling through the dungeon with.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's-
There you go.
That's like mirror image. Like I got him.
and then you have to get
Yeah.
people to kill a bunch of cats that aren't the familiar too.
Right.
And nobody wants to do that.
Or you get your familiar to be a gerbil.
Wait a minute. Don't even.
oh man, what's wrong
You
with
did
you?
not just go there.
All right. Anything else in the chat room?
One more thing.
That's
Archmage
what
1.
the gerbil said.
Yes. Archmage 1.
Hey, Noah.
Are there a set of magic tropes from fiction that does make a good magic system?
Yeah, it's
so
called
many
the-
fictions have so many different versions of magic.
Yeah, it's called the Dresden Files.
There you go.
I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, magic systems I actually do like. I mean, this is old tech, but I'm actually rather fond of witchcraft.
I don't know.
The-
How
I enjoyed the witchcraft magic system.
Witchcraft was really good. It was a point-based thing. Spells had costs, plus you could blow them out like in range and distance and stuff by paying more points. But you had to channel up the essence.
and it
so-
would hurt you.
It could potentially hurt you. And if you were Wiccan, your school of magic, you also had to abide by I forget the exact name of it, but essentially whatever you put out in the world comes back to you threefold.
Yeah, there you go.
So you had to be really careful. Like if you used an offensive spell, like you basically just gave the GM narrative leverage.
To just mess with you.
To mess with
three
you
times
later.
as bad.
Yeah.
To me, any magic system needs to have an actual real cost or possibility of a cost for you.
Yeah.
To me, that's the best kind of magic. That's why I like the Dresden Files magic system so much, because if you cast a spell, it even in accelerated, it has some semblance of cost for you. You only can do it so many times before you burn out, or you can only do it so many times before you have to take a consequence, and that isn't static. Like it is randomized within the dice roll, which isn't too random, but it's there. So that is how I like magic, and you can push yourself too and hurt yourself really bad to cast spells and to do some pretty amazing things. But that is the kind of magic that I like.
Yep.
That is not Vancian magic.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I liked about witchcraft. Witchcraft was non-Vancian as well, because you learned spells, and then as long as you had essence, so you had your own reserve of essence, and you could use that instantly. So like you could be like, I'm going to spend 10 essence and cast, ectoplasmic bolt or whatever.
Sure.
And that was fine. But if the spell was too big or you were too low on personal essence, you could soak it up from the environment.
Sure.
But at a much slower rate.
Yeah.
So when you wanted to do ritual magic, like the cost for ritual magic would be like really high. And so you'd spend turns channeling essence to kind of get it all together.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things I liked about that game.
was
For a
fun.
90s game,
It sounds a lot like what they do for Dresden.
yeah, except this was like more points and stuff like that. But it was for 90s tech, man, it was
You know,
good.
If
Yeah.
you take away the points and just think of it as stress or time, then it's exactly the same as
Yeah.
the Dresden file
Yeah, it
system.
could be.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could actually harm yourself if you rolled poorly, or if you just wanted to hurt yourself to do something.
Oh, there was
amazing.
a hurt yourself.
Yeah, there was.
There was a critical failure thing. Yeah, if you critically fumbled or something on a spell, you paid for that too.
All right, let's kick it back to the topic.
Yeah.
Let's
where
go.
we at?
Back to wizards sucking.
Wizards sucking. Did we talk about? I mean, we started talking about how magic messes up everything. Did we talk about how high level magic destroys games?
No, we haven't yet. So let's
Now, I don't think it does, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. Like, high magic destroys games.
yeah, again, we're being ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So be ridiculous. What are the problems? Like when the player finally gets access to the 9th level spell list,
Hey,
like
man.
what are you bracing yourself
Let's
for?
talk about how you need wishes to kill Tarrasques.
I mean,
Wishes
truthfully,
suck away your life force, man.
I mean, wishes technically kill everything.
Yeah, but you need like 5 of them to kill a Tarrasque.
Yeah, that's
if you have
Or-
your
or
crack
3 of
team of
them, or
lawyers with you,
whatever
then
they
the
are.
wish can kill everything.
Well,
but
I mean, I don't know how Wish works now in 5th edition, but Wish was
Oh, you want me to tell you?
Yeah,
I
go
actually like a lot more. So Wish, in the text, it states that there are a bunch of things that Wish can do.
yeah.
Like, if you wish for these things, it just happens. Then there's a provisionary thing that I hear. You can wish for anything you want, but the DM has every amount of leverage to twist it any way they want.
Oh, see, it's nice that they clarified it because
Yeah.
in 1st edition, you used Wish at your own peril.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I had a ring of 3 wishes for 4 years. I used 1 wish, and the moment I used the wish, it took an hour of out-of-game negotiations to get the wording. Like, the party sat and was like, okay, come on, let's go over this again. Like, we were trying to bring somebody back from the dead. And we like had to, word it so that he didn't come back as a zombie. He didn't come back as first level without his gear. Like it was.
You got like 4 pages of descriptive text. That
My lawyer says here in section 1.5 in the provision of this wish.
I wanted to come back to life in the exact same state he was in.
Right,
an hour
dying.
before he died. An hour before he died.
Right. Which means that an hour later, something fucking runs him through and kills him, right?
Sure, whatever. But at least you can avoid it then.
No, I mean, you can't because you can't avoid fate, right? Like, GMs, there was a lot of latitude. So, Wish is the ultimate, right? Like, Wish is the pinnacle of spells.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is hell-raising.
It's actually cool because it's the pinnacle of what magic is because it's super flexible.
Right. Well, I mean, it is literally rewriting the fabric of reality.
Yes.
Okay. And it is fairly terrifying for GMs. It is fairly terrifying, except now at 5th level, it seems they got that thing locked down some more.
Yeah, well, they have it locked down in some ways, but those things, like, you can wish for a structure that's, like, certain amount of size that costs a certain amount of money, or you can wish for, like, 250,000 gold pieces, or a few other things. Like,
you can only wish for 250, like, not infinite gold pieces?
Well, you can, but then the GM has latitude.
Yes.
Yep.
You can wish for whatever you want, but once you go outside of that list, then the GM can screw you.
Which is like the classic. I wish for $1 million. All of a sudden,
deer.
there's a million female deer in your front yard trampling everything.
So they said you can do these things, or you can wish for whatever.
I like that these things are like, listen, we're gonna seed on how much greed you can have, and above this, fuck you.
So what they did, it looks like what they did to me is they took the idea of limited wish and combined it with wish and just made them one spell.
Yeah.
And if you cast a limited wish, you get what you want.
Right.
If you go for broke, then all bets are off.
Yeah.
If you're gonna roll the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like that a lot as a design.
Well, I actually think that's pretty good, and I mean, it's not bad. At least they're explicit. Like, at least before you pick that spell to put it in your spell book.
Yeah.
Like, all hell can break loose if you speak. If you're not implicitly clear on what you want.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
I'm
also-
just imagining. Here's the part that screws me up: is the fiction part, right? Like, where in wizard school does like the ancient wizard be like, pupil, when you cast wish, you can ask for 250,000 gold pieces. You can ask for a fortress of the following dimensions, but no bigger. Like, that's the part where.
Well, that's the problem. You have a story game that's a role playing game that's also trying to be prescriptive with its rules.
Yes.
I mean, at some point we have to have rules, right? That's why I'm not a fan of Vancian magic. Like, I'm not a fan.
Right.
I'm not a fan of all these little mini spell. Somebody mentioned this in the chat or in the G Plus community at one point. These mini little like subsystems of gameplay, right?
Yeah.
Like every spell is almost like its own particular move.
It is. I mean, they're often encapsulated rule systems.
Yeah.
And they were worse.
Also, why wizards suck? Because you have to learn all those rules if you really want to play one well.
Correct. Well, it makes
at least the ones you pick.
It makes system mastery a lot harder.
Yes.
Yes.
But I actually like that.
Because you like system mastery, and
been
I
playing
actually
Wizards.
suck at this,
Yeah.
which is why I hate this.
I've been playing Wizards lately, so it's been fun.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about Wish. Hey, what about like some higher level transport?
Cool. So astral protection, you can go to the astral plane.
Yeah.
Like it costs some money and whatnot. And this is the 5th edition version of the spell. But you and a bunch of people, and it costs X amount of gold per person with the items that you need to go there. And then you out of body experience to the astral plane. And you have the silver cord and everything. It's great. Now, I don't actually have a problem with that spell because it's a story beat spell, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean that spell is like, hey, we're gonna cast a spell, and next week we're going on an astral adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gate, you travel dimensions.
Yeah. To me, Gate is less terrible, and I would actually push it down the list at lower level, and this is why. Remember I said that at some point you need to swap out your tropes?
Yeah.
This is what you should be doing. You should stop going to dungeons, and you should start going to planes.
Well, that's because those are the bigger dungeons.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but Gate is the way you do that. Like, at 12th level, you should just be like, well, no more Baron Von Badass up in the hill over there. Let those adventurers handle them. We're off to the plane of Mechanicus or whatever to, solve a real problem. Like, you peons. Like we've reached a higher level of existence.
Which is why in 4th edition D&D they had the 3 tiers.
They have them again in 5th edition.
yeah. I'm okay with that. Like, but here's the thing: they have the tiers, but they don't swap. They don't necessarily swap the tropes.
They do in their adventure design.
Right, but
and
they
they
should-
do in their explanations these days.
Good,
They
because
they hint at them. They're better about it.
right,
There's
they
just
should
so much
be-
more advice
they
out
should
there
be
now.
overt. Like
Yeah.
when you get to this tier, stop these tropes. Do these tropes.
But there's a thing that we should write sometime. Like, here are the tropes for the tiers of D&D
I
play
feel like
that
you and
slot
Merwin
in.
should do that.
Yeah, that's probably something we should do.
You and Merwin should. That's a great like
Thing to do.
a
Yep.
handful of page
Yeah.
PDF. Yeah.
So
Okay. So
that's transportation.
yeah.
There's also another thing, like time thing.
Yeah.
You can create like houses you can hide in,
Uh-huh.
and time passes more slowly for you.
Sure.
So like in an hour, you can get an 8-hour rest.
Right. And
Mordecai's
research
magical
shit.
mansion or whatever the heck it's called. There's a couple of spells that do stuff like that, like Liamon's tiny hut, stuff like that.
Lehman's kind of, touchy about his tiny hut.
I mean, his tiny hut is fine, and you can put it in your pocket and walk around. Anyways, killing things, winning fights. So imprisonment. This is actually not a bad spell in 5th edition. It used to be a lot worse.
Right.
Here's why it's not bad in 5th, but it's an instant win spell, right? So, 1, you have to be within 30 feet of the thing that you're trying to imprison,
Yeah.
and it takes a minute to cast it.
A minute's a long time.
It's a long
That's a
time.
long
Is it still
time.
6-second turns? So
Yeah.
10 turns have to go
Yeah,
by?
so
That's
you
a
have
lot.
to trap the thing,
Uh-huh.
and then you have to be within 30 feet of it, and then you have to take a minute to cast this thing, and it costs like 500 gold pieces per CR of the creature that you need to make a statue of the thing, and depending on how you imprison it, because there's a bunch of different ways to imprison it, it has different like magical components. Like if you're gonna lock it underground, it's like a mithril orb.
So you have to be prepared.
You have
this
to be
isn't something
prepared.
you can just do on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not dropping this thing out of you're not like, wait, I got imprisoned.
now banish on the other hand,
Yeah.
from older editions, what a bullshit spell.
See ya.
Yeah, goodbye, get out. So
Yeah.
much for that demon fight.
Have you ever seen like Spirit Rack?
No, what's that?
Oh, it's a 1st edition spell. I'll see if I can find it. It's like 2 pages of.
While you're looking at that, Meteor Swarm.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
Meteor Swarm is what Fireball wants to grow up to be.
It kind of is what Fireball grows up to
Yeah.
be. 20d6 to everything like within 40 feet radius. That's a huge area of destruction.
Uh-huh.
And it goes around corners. You can't really take cover.
No.
Power word kill.
Wait a minute, it goes around corners?
That's what it says in the spell. Wow. Power word kill. You have to knock it down to 100 hit points or fewer in 5th edition. I actually like both. I like all these spells at 9th level. I don't even think they're that bad.
I'll tell you what. Power word kill at 9th level is not that bad because resurrection's like a 5th level spell.
True.
Like by the time I can kill you by pointing at you, the cleric's like, wait, I got him. Revive.
True.
Revivify.
Revivify.
Yeah.
Revivify. I hate that
I
spell.
love you. Know you love that.
And
spell.
then like weird, and these aren't bad spells for 9th level spells in my opinion. Weird is you create in a 40-foot radius, everything takes like they start seeing their worst fears, and they take 4d10 psychic damage per round until they save.
Right.
Not so bad. Like
It's-
these spells are
Those
fine.
are 5th edition, right?
Yeah, those are all 5th edition spells. In previous editions, there were some pretty ridiculous 9th and in some cases 10th level spells.
Uh-huh.
I mean, 10th level spell, you can cut a mountaintop off, flip it, and float it. That's how they got the Netheril flying
There.
places.
There we go.
Alrighty.
How do you think they made Dangerous Space Jail?
Yeah.
10th level spell.
I mean,
Just saying.
Dungeon World.
Absolutely.
It's Dungeon World. That's how they made it.
Well, sure. Yeah. And the last thing is manipulating the fundamental building blocks of reality. So things like polymorph,
Yeah.
like true polymorph, you can polymorph something into something for forever. It's not as bad in 5th edition, but they're still like those spells were pretty rough.
I'm just looking at the 3-5 9th level spells.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, I mean, like we got Mage's Disjunction.
What does that do?
That just dispels magic, disenchants magic items. Like
Oh, so much for your
That's
magic.
all.
items. That's like a rust monster.
it's like a rust monster, but like for your Holy Avenger.
Yeah.
Right? Like all magical effects and magic items within the radius of spell, except for those that you carry or touch, are disjoined. That is, spell and spell-like effects are separated into their individual components, ending the effect as if dispel magic does. And permanent magic items must make a successful will save or be turned into a normal item.
Wow. So much for your Holy Avenger.
Right.
Oh, that rod of that staff of power,
Gone.
rod of the Magi. No, not so much.
Dominate monster.
I love Dominate Monster.
Mass hold monster.
Well, that's an instant win spell.
That's an instant win spell.
But what does it work on? Like, who gets, like, does it work on everything? Like, those
I'll
are
tell
the
you right now,
questions.
hang
like,
on.
restrictions are always the things that you need to look at.
Well,
for
that's
these
the
things.
thing. All right, so hang on.
'Cause-
I'll look at. I'll look at.
For instance, shape change. You can turn into something something of a CR that is equal to your level or lower.
Targets 2 or more creatures, no 2 which can be more than 30 feet apart. Functions like hold person, except that affects multiple creatures, and holds any living creature that fails its will save.
Oh, any living creature.
Any living creature that fails its will save.
So, and how long does it last?
Hang on. Well, it's the same as. All right, so hang on. It's the. I'll click it again.
So it functions this whole person.
Yeah, it functions as hold person. So hold person is.
That's why you make sure you have a necromancer on
Yeah,
your side.
how many,
So that you can send
1
the undead.
round per level.
So 20 rounds, you've just held Demogorgon. If Demogorgon fails a saving throw.
Right.
Because in that version of the game, ain't no legendary saves, man.
Right.
There ain't no automatically save.
I think you can then just kill him, right?
You can coup de grace Demogorgon.
That's
yeah, sure, why
that's
not?
what I'm saying, right? Like some of these are problematic, right? Like
That's a bit problematic.
a
But,
little
like,
problematic.
I mean, you can cast hold person on higher level things, but I think in other editions, like, and that's why that's why the wizard sucks. Like we could debate these spells all
Right.
day. We could talk about these high level spells and what they can do all day long, but why? I think we've done enough damage.
I think we've done enough.
to ourselves and our own reputations.
Listen, let's just recap. Let's just recap why
Sure.
we were bitching about the wizard. The advancement curve,
That's terrible.
niche encroachment via
that,
spell,
that happens a lot.
magic eventually breaks everything, and higher level magic
Solves everything. We don't need anybody else.
Right.
Sure.
That's essentially it. And the thing is that you won't find that in the fighter. That's not a thing. Like a 20th level fighter is pretty badass, but not that badass.
And they're pretty badass.
They're pretty badass, but if everybody just walks away from them, like a 20th level fighter is only dangerous on the opponent it can reach. If everybody else just moves back 20 feet,
Unless that fighter's an archer.
sure, but, and then they go behind a wall, like just a wall.
Look, man, I'm playing D&D with Merwin right now,
Yeah.
and he's got a ranger that every time he shoots somebody, he does like 30 points of damage. He's level 12.
It's awesome.
Nice.
It's a little out there.
Yeah,
It's pretty great.
that's pretty good.
All right.
All right. Anyway, look, that was a light topic for tonight, but we did try to hit a couple of things. I did like that the community kicked in some stuff about the problems with wizards.
So in a few weeks, I will do Why is the Wizard Awesome?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this: designers, cut out the advancement shit. The spell thing doesn't even bother me as much as the advancement curve, because that advancement curve means that spells have to be crazier at higher level because you're paying off the drudgery of lower levels.
If we're playing a game where advancement's part of the game, then we have to figure out a way to make the wizard advance. Because everybody else advances too.
Yeah, and make them not suck so hard at lower levels.
Yeah.
Like, let them do a thing.
We will talk about that stuff.
All right.
All right.
Mosey on.
Chat room, anything.
Blake Ryan said some of the second edition fiends could regenerate back from ash, hence higher level spells got increased in power. I could definitely see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably right.
Rob Abrazato, he posted the high level wizard starts casting imprisonment, and then I pop up in the back, we're going long.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, that's
man.
funny.
I mean, imprisonment is really the kind of thing where your campaign was structured to have a big bad guy.
Yeah.
And the whole time you're like, well, we're just going to get the wizard up to 9th level spells, and then we're imprisoning his ass. And then that's like a 2-part adventure to imprison his ass.
yeah,
and
man,
it's
and your
totally worth it.
and your game is actually about finding that spell.
It's finding that spell. It's getting the material components together to put it together, because you have to go build your statue.
Yeah.
And then the
Or
satisfaction.
finding somebody to craft it for you.
Right. And the satisfaction of going and dragging him into the imprisonment.
Yeah, it's actually a lot like your Demon King adventure. Yeah.
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 Yeah. No, that spell is like you can frame a campaign off of it. Kind of like the way in the Trask book, you could do a campaign based on we're eventually going to kill the Trask. This
Yeah.
whole campaign is about getting shit to kill the Trask. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Let's go.
Mosey around.
Yeah, this one.
Moses.
It is the Social Media Depository.
And Bob still hasn't heard that bumper. It's
Yeah.
I
really
just
like
heard it.
Oh, did you hear it?
Yep.
Very nice.
Oh, good.
All right. So we're going to talk about getting healthy. This is our Get Healthy section. So this week in the community, we're at +1 pound. So that's not terrible. plus 2 pounds because of Phil. That's okay. But I
Sorry,
am
guys.
personally going to dedicate myself to getting in the loss column for this week because I was plus 1 myself. Here's the healthy tip, and this is from Eileen. Thank you, Eileen. She's doing cardio, but she's also doing strength training. And I also used to do that when I was losing a ton of weight, and it's really good. So there's that. She also picked up some sweet craving snack alternatives. She has chocolate almond milk and shell-on pistachios. So she doesn't know what it is about pistachios, but they take care of her sweet tooth. So finding snacks that are healthy and also help you get that snack craving out of your system is a good thing to do.
I totally agree.
I'm a big fan of carrots. I like carrots. I don't know why.
Raw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, raw carrots are okay. I'm trying to think what my go-to almonds. Almonds were my go-to
Me
snack
too.
for
It's a
long
power
time.
food, man.
Yeah,
Like,
almonds are really good.
I take those.
Almonds are good for energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I take those to conventions with me, like little in baggies of like 15 to 20, and
Yeah.
I eat them when I need a boost.
Almonds definitely good. Yeah. Tea. I like tea.
I like tea also. I actually drink a lot of tea these days.
I have now gotten into the habit. I have tea time, and my office is 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, I go make a pot of tea.
It's 1 in the afternoon for me.
And I have 1/2 of a teaspoon of sugar.
I don't put any sugar in my tea.
I can do it without sugar, but I actually found that I like tea a little bit more if I just put the little bit of sugar in with it.
I use honey.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes,
Sure.
not all the time, but sometimes.
Honey's good.
That's what sweetens it up for me.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about a current Kickstarter, because I like to do that every now and again.
Please tell me more.
This one's called Wearing the Cape.
Yes.
It is a role-playing game. It is based on Fate. So Wearing the Cape is also based on a novel. And that novel, which once I open up the Kickstarter page, because I should do that, was written by Marion G. Harmon. So that's the writer. This was on Amazon. It did really well there. So that's what this is. If you're into superheroes, if you're into Fate, this is a nice little crossover for that. I mean, if Adventure City Stories isn't your thing, this is a nice alternative to that.
No capes.
Just get breakaway capes, man.
No capes.
No. Have you not seen that meme?
No, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
doing the.
I know what you're doing, but did you see the meme with her?
No.
So the meme with her is like, it's Batman and he's got a cape, and then there's the lady from The Incredibles saying no capes, and then there's the next panel with Batman with a breakaway cape, and then there's the next panel with her with her mouth open like this, like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
And of course, Batman would come up with the breakaway cape because bats.
Yeah, I know, right? Like that's how that goes.
Well, you pretty much need to.
True facts. All right.
Capes are dangerous.
So I just want to let y'all know about that. Community chatter. So Avi, the Jackal, he brought this thing called Vocaroo to our attention. It is a voice messaging system.
Right.
If you didn't hear it, I put his voice message in a previous episode. So if you use Vocaroo to record a voice message, you can drop the link in our community. I will pick it up, and I can use that to put it in the show if you want to talk to us.
You can talk to us you can send us a message and be on the show.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
You should do that. We it's unfair. You know what we sound like.
But we don't know what you sound like.
We don't know what you sound
We
like.
want to know.
We do.
Yeah.
So do that. Unless we bump into you at a convention, we don't get a lot of opportunities to actually hear everyone.
Yeah.
So
And for instance, instead of Todd Crapper sending us this message on social mechanics, he could have sent us an audio message on social mechanics, and I could play this instead of having to read it.
correct.
Yeah. So
There we
We
go.
would have heard his lovely Canadian accent.
exactly.
Yeah.
So almost done listening to your garage segment on social mechanics. Great job with this one. Towards the end of it, I started to think about the perception check of social scenes in many of my old D&D games, insight checks. So many players tend to treat those as social saving throws to see if the person telling them something important is lying or trying to keep a secret that they rely heavily on insight checks to gauge their role-playing. Any suggestions for helping to break players of this crutch? So I like to use insight checks to give people the tenor of a room.
Sure.
That's a thing that I enjoy. Insight checks to figure out how people are feeling or what social tics they're giving off.
Yep.
And the way that I break the habit of this is I start asking for those checks and then delivering that information. Because then you are taking the lead and saying, this is what insight can do in my game.
Well, I think that's excellent. I think the other thing you could do is you could go a bit dungeon worldy on this and be like, tell me what exactly you're looking for.
Yeah.
Before,
Ask me a question.
Yeah, like if you're like, well, I want to know if he's lying. Well, how are you checking? Like, I mean, insight's not a magical power.
Correct.
What are you deducing?
Yeah.
Like, use a little bit of that knowledge from watching Sherlock like 100 times. Like, is he looking away involuntarily? Like, you can say those things. Like I'm watching for facial tics to see if he's like hiding or trying to conceal something.
I'm watching for body language. I'm
I'm
watching for strains in the vocal pattern.
Right. Because if you say something like that to me, now I'm more inclined to say yes, make an insight check. And I won't tell you if he's lying, but I will tell you, like,
They're social tics.
I will tell you, like, you know, he seems to he's not making good eye contact with you, or the pitch of his voice is going up at different parts when he's saying things.
Every time he answers that particular question, he looks at his shoes.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
you can infer that's lying.
Yeah, but that could mean something else because that's actually what the information that you're getting is.
Right.
You're noticing something that is out of character.
So I like your thing. Take command of it.
Uh-huh.
And then the other thing I would say is lead with fiction.
Yes.
Tell me you got to justify to me, because you've seen this and I've had it happen in games where players will, you know, like you'll be talking, then like the player like literally pick up the dice and be like, I'm going to roll for insight. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't tell you to roll for insight.
True.
You know, like, and so do that. The fiction. Tell me, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. D&D games don't necessarily make you do that kind of stuff.
But they don't prohibit you from doing it.
They don't
either.
prohibit
Yep.
you from doing that. So, I mean, your players have to get on board with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And also, what Phil just said, instead of just telling them if they're lying or not, you can just have them tell them that stuff.
Hey, insight's not mind reading.
That's right.
Insight is what you can see.
That's true.
So you tell them what they can see. You let them draw conclusions. And if they roll, I mean,
Technically, investigate is what lets them draw conclusions.
right. I mean, they can draw their own conclusions
Yeah.
from what you tell them.
True.
Like they look at their shoes every time they talk about the war. Now, you might be like, oh, they're totally lying. Or they're suffering some sort of trauma from the war and remembering like walking through all these bodies.
That's when it helps to know your NPCs, like what they care about aside from just
Yep.
being generic.
Yeah. So it's not perfect, and it shouldn't be, because there's a spell that'll tell you if they're lying.
Yeah.
It's called detect thoughts.
Right. So instead, insight is imperfect, and you should get imperfect information back.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to use it, make them work for it a little.
Yeah.
And
Also,
as a side effect, it makes your interactions and your world richer and deeper because you've got more detail and more meat on the bones.
Mm-hmm. Also, if they're trained in insight, you can ask them like, "What does your training in insight do for you?" and then define that, so that therefore you have a fictional position to narrate that from. Like, if they say to you, "Well, I learned, or I trained myself, or I was trained by somebody to read, facial expressions and things like that," then you can give a little bit more information in that case instead of just the facial stuff. Like,
Yeah.
they have
you
a
could
facial
skew,
tick,
You could skew your description
or
into those.
Or you can do a thing like they have this eye tick when they say certain things. That means that could mean one of three things, or that could mean that they are generally probably lying when they're saying that thing,
Yeah.
because that is a thing that you know then. But not everybody would know that.
Right. And you can also say things like, you feel like they're concealing something.
Yeah.
They may not be concealing the immediate truth.
True.
They may be concealing something else.
Yeah. Yep. Because people have way more than just one secret.
Exactly. So yeah, I think I think I like that. And I kind of do that anyway, like in general, but yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. So we have an iTunes review. I love iTunes reviews.
Oh, Chris.
Did you just send to me?
Yeah, I totally did. That's
I'm gonna send to you real quick.
okay.
Hey, guess what came out? Iron Fist trailer. Oh my God, it's so good looking. Okay, I'm done now.
Okay.
All right. iTunes review by Halo King 2525. I found this podcast about 6 months ago from a post on the D&D 5th edition page by Merrick Blackman. Thank you, Merrick. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Since then, I listened to about every episode, some multiple times. Learned a lot about game design and GMing from the hosts. I purchased several games based on their recommendations. Phil equals Rockstar GM Advice. Chris equals Awesome Game Analysis. Bob equals Gentleman and a Scholar.
I feel like
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Halo King. Second of all, based on that name, I will not be finding you on Xbox Live.
Yeah.
Unless you're on my team.
Yeah.
And then by all means, yes, be on my team. Because I am almost 45, and that means my Halo Twitch reflexes are slowing down. Second, I feel like, remember from Anchorman where they had like the News Team 7, like the montages where like based on that, like I feel like we need to have a picture or video thing, like where we're sitting there, pondering and thinking through like misdirected Mark, rockstar GM advice, awesome game analysis, gentleman and scholar.
There you go. I could just do little frames.
Yeah,
of us.
yeah, of each of us, like
the news,
me ranting about something.
Yeah, the news thing. You should put your hands on your head now.
Bump the fucking mic.
All right, let's do our Indie Game Developer Network Spotlight for this week. So we're talking about Dungeon Grappling. So this is by Doug Cole and Ballistic Gaming. So Dungeon Grappling, it is a 52-page book. It costs $9.49. It has stuff in there all about grappling, advice on grappling. It's actually like our Taras book, but on grappling. That is actually the best thing that I could say about it, man.
Yes. I mean, reference our episode on grappling.
That's true. So in the book, you get simple, unified mechanics using the same concept as weapon strikes. There's variable outcomes. Grapples can be good or bad. There's dynamic, tense stories that can be told through grappling. Weapons, talents, magic, all the stuff that you could have while you're grappling, they're all in there and how they get used. And that's the stuff that's in there. It looks pretty cool. It's not it's a reasonable price. The book is gorgeous. I just wanted to say that too. I've seen preview pages of it. It's a lovely book. There's also an associated project called The Art of Dungeon Grappling, where 50% of the sales of this book go to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and 35% of that will be distributed as a bonus to the artists. So there you go.
Wow, very generous.
That's really cool stuff. That's the extra reason why you should go and check it out. All right, well, let's move on to Patreon shoutouts. So Todd Crapper, thank you so much for being a patron. Blaze Abear, David Walker, our inspiration, and Avi,
Avi, who was making lunch just before the show came on.
All right,
because it's some other time across the world.
Yeah. So we're going to do a podcast review now, but I don't have the bumper for this one. I didn't want to grab it because I didn't feel like getting copyright infringed on this, although it's usually free to use it for reviews, but I didn't want to. So I'm going to talk about Welcome to Night Vale. So Welcome to Night Vale is a twice-monthly podcast in the style of community updates for the small desert town of Night Vale. It features local weather, which is actually music, news, announcements from the sheriff's secret police, mysterious lights in the night sky, dark hooded figures with unknowable powers, and cultural events. It's very much an audio drama comedy type podcast. I love it a lot. Each individual episode usually deals with some bizarre problem that Night Vale is having. It's all from the point of view of a community radio show called Welcome to Night Vale, hosted by Cecil Baldwin, who is the voice of Night Vale. He is wonderful. It uses a lot of ideas of existential, nihilistic, and Lovecraftian horror twisted to comedic places. Things like the Glow Cloud, all hail the Glow Cloud, the librarians, which I think are Shoggoths, and it's illegal to read in Night Vale, so it's odd that they have librarians or even a library. There's these time warping stories that happen all the time, where time is not a linear thing in Night Vale, kind of like non-linear podcasting, and all kinds of insanity occur in the town. Each season, which spans about a year, has an ongoing story, and they have a live show that tours all over the place. I've seen them live. It's a great time.
I remember that.
It's a ton of fun. So with that, I will say good night, Vale. Good night, Night Vale. Good night. That is the tagline.
By the way, Senna says that the Night Vale music is actually Creative Commons music.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's
cool.
what she said.
Because I know the guy who does the music, he sells albums and stuff still for them too. Very, very cool. All right. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
If you are free Tuesday evenings, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 6:45 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome, Senda. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life. And come ask us questions.
If you cannot make it to the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Threats from Gallifrey, Advantage to Insight, Pandas Talking Games, Cyphers Speak with Darcy and Troy, The Gnome Cast, The Streets of Avalon with the Wednesday Evening Podcast All-Stars, and Hobbs and Friends of the OSR.
Almost there, brother. Almost there.
Yep. You can and should also check out some of our brother and sister podcasts. She's a Super Geek, Talking Tabletop, The Satanic Panic AP, The Knights of the Night, and the Always Amazing, and Dragon-filled this week episode of Gaming MBS. Thanks for the trash shout-out, boys.
After you have scried our show, disagree with us vehemently, and decided to use your wish to complain, please contact us. You can reach us directly, Chris at misdirectedmark.com.
That's me.
Phil at misdirectedmark.com.
He's over there.
Or Bob at misdirectedmark.com.
The gentleman scholar.
Check out our Facebook group. Hit us up on the Twitters. You can always hit up the show at misdirectedmark.
Woo!
But you can also find us individually at DNA Phil, at Robert M. Everson, at The Light 101.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, travel using Gate to the plane of our social media existence.
To the sigil of our social media existence.
The sigil of our social media existence, our G Plus community.
Yes. If you like what we do here and on the other shows if you like what we do here on Mr. Mark and on Down with D&D and on Pandas Talking Games, you can support our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMP. I should rewrite that copy. Patrons get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, and the Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, plus bi-weekly D&D offerings and other special releases as we can put them out. With that, I will say this has been a Mr. Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop!
We out! That one's mine. That's my mic. I can knock it out if I want to.
It's true. It's true. Here we go.